each other, which is good news. But we're really thrilled to have the Franklin County Recorder, who's our 12th congressional candidate. Danny, if you want to come up, it means a lot to have you here, and we're really looking forward to hearing from you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairwoman. And one thing that's very true, and anyone who's ever run for office or holds office knows that running is not easy. Campaigns are not easy. But the hardest job, I really believe, in politics is being a chairperson. And thank you for what you do. It's a thankless job sometimes, but it's an important job. And as we go out and talk to voters about why we need to have candidates up and down the ballot who are going to make sure that if you punch in and punch out, you get a fair shot at getting ahead in our country, it's because of folks like you, Grace, who work hard and keep the office open and make the key copies and do all that stuff. That's what keeps the trains on time. Another thanks to Ed Albertson, who is just as good of a man as you can find. He was as honorable of an opponent as I could have ever had in a primary campaign. His phrase, let's keep the main thing, the main thing, the main thing, is something that I think resonates with folks across this district, because we all know what an opportunity that we have here. We don't have an election in 5 months. We have an election in 66 days. And on July 10th, early vote starts, which means from July 10th until August 7th, we have an election every single day. And the eyes of the country, and they really are. I mean, we saw it in Pennsylvania, we saw it in Alabama, we saw Arizona, Georgia, all these other places. The eyes of the country are coming to where they belong. They're coming to Ohio. And we have to be ready to go out and talk to our neighbors, to make phone calls, to knock on doors, to donate, to write postcards about why we feel like we need to hit the reset button for our country. And that's because we see a tax system. We just saw this past December, they passed this tax thing, right? $1.5 trillion that goes to the wealthiest 1%. 83% of that goes to the wealthiest 1%. I am not benefiting from that. I don't know if anyone else is in here. Please donate to all of our campaigns because we need your help. But what if that $1.5 trillion was spent on bridges? What if it was spent on roads? What if it was spent on Head Start? What if it was spent on safety equipment for our firefighters? What if it was spent rebuilding this country and getting people back to work? We've seen over the past 30 years in this district, right? I don't have a congressman right now. None of y'all have a congressman right now because our congressman resigned in January. But the reality is, honest to God, the reality is we haven't had real representation in this district for a very, very, very long time. And we've seen, over the past 30 or so years, we've seen wages barely eke up, right? We've seen the stock market go gangbusters. We've seen union membership decline. But we haven't seen an opportunity for real people to keep up, people who do things the right way, folks who sit around at their kitchen table every night and they say, how am I going to pay the mortgage? How am I going to save for retirement? My kid wants to go to school, and college tuition is more expensive than it's ever been. And I know from talking to folks, Democrats, Republicans, Independents, that these are things that keep folks up at night, no matter who they are, no matter where they come from, because these are issues that are bread and butter things. And these are the things that we need to talk about as Democrats. I'm excited that the next person who's speaking is my good friend Zach Space, because we see what's going on at the State House, right? I mean, we kind of know what's going on in Washington, all right? We know what they do and how it's broken, but the State House is now in this situation. And my opponent in this election has been in the State House, I think, for about 8 years now. He voted for SB 5. So if you are on the job keeping people safe, Dave, or you're on the beat as a police officer, or you take your career and give it back to kids as a teacher, this is someone who wasn't looking out for you. But we see what's going on across this country. We know what's going on with this race. Does anybody know who was in here on Wednesday raising money for my opponent? Speaker Paul Ryan. You know why? Because this is a tied race. This is a toss-up race. This is John Kasich's seat. This is Pat Tiberi's seat. And they're terrified to death of losing it. And the reason that they're scared is because we have a full room here right now. All right, it is 8, 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning in the summer. There are a million other things that everybody here could be doing, but you're here because you care, because you know what type of country you deserve to have. You know what type of community you deserve to have. You know that if you've done things the right way, if you've clocked in and clocked out, if you've been in the Marines, if you've done things the right way, that you deserve to have a shot at the American dream. You deserve to have your retirement taken care of. You deserve to have Social Security and Medicare because you paid into it. And right now, Paul Ryan was coming here on Wednesday because he doesn't think any of that. He thinks we need to cut Medicare. He thinks we need to cut Social Security because he wants to continue cutting taxes. And when it comes to health care, my mom's a breast cancer survivor. I was a freshman in college. She calls me, she says, come home for the weekend to watch, I think it was Ohio State, Wisconsin that weekend. This is 14 years ago. And I said, well, I don't want to come home, but, because I'm a freshman in college. But I did because my mom asked me to. And she sits me down that day and she says, sweetie, I have breast cancer, right? And I said, well, how far along? And she said, I have to go through, about 8 months of radiation treatment. And it's not easy to watch your mom go through radiation treatment, but she kicked breast cancer's ass and she beat it. And right now, though, to this day, she has what's called a pre-existing condition. And a lot of our loved ones, our friends, our family members, people we care about, have pre-existing conditions. And what would happen if we rolled back healthcare, what would happen if we went back to where we were before, is folks who have pre-existing conditions would get kicked off their healthcare. And when I'm in the United States Congress, if they're gonna come after your healthcare, they're gonna have to get through me first. Because I see that as going after my mom. And if you go after my mom, I'm gonna fight back. And I'm gonna fight every single day for the people in this room like I would for my mom, because you've done things the right way. You care about your community, and together we can flip this district. Together we can start this blue wave on August 7th, keep it going through November, reset this Congress, take back our country, and make this country a better place again. Thank you all so much. I love you and I appreciate you. Thank you.